Wednesday, May 6th, 10:24 a.m. What's up, everybody? Checking back in for our trade log. We have SanDisk pulled up on our screen. That is our forefront of our focus for our momentum tracking. That's kind of what we started. I don't want to say we did not start the series for that, but it's definitely been the focus of, hey, we've identified saying, momentum, the fading of momentum is what I think is the most predictable, most tradable event in the market. And so what had momentum when we started, certainly the memory chips, Micron and SanDisk specifically. So I have not done an update since Friday, this previous Friday, maybe I think May 4th, I want to say, or no, Monday, I don't know, it's Wednesday, May 6th, but I don't remember the last time I did a little entry. And so I wanted to talk you through a couple points of managing, because you can see, I shorted, this is the first re-entry I've had since we closed at $900 a share and minus $900 total dollar figures. And so this is my first re-entry into this position, and I wanted to talk you through just kind of my thoughts, and then the overall memory trade specifically, and this backdrop of agentic trading. We just had Lisa Sue on this morning, and as we covered in science class yesterday, everybody's agentic. But that is definitely the buzzwords that's hot off the press. Regardless, taking you through a little bit of the mechanics of the trade that I re-entered on, and just other considerations for this trade overall. And so, obviously, huge appreciation, real revenues. We're hearing some sort of comparison to the dot-com bubble of the 1990s. Scott Wapner had a quote I liked yesterday where it was like, we have $1 trillion valuations on zero revenues, in comparison to today where it's like, hey, we have these huge valuations. We're in this price discovery. Again, how much could a company be valued is really, there's no limit. There's no reason why it should be at something or not. If it's making money and if it's growing, what does something trade at, and what does it go to? Is kind of, uncharted territories. But regardless, the backdrop of this overall technology momentum, memory-specific trade, Lisa Sue saying agentic. Again, I don't know the business composition of like NVIDIA, AMD versus Micron and SanDisk. So not going to try to comment on that, but certainly this is where, again, momentum, you have to have the volume, so everyone's going to be talking about it. And so we had, again, to me, the price action when we first entered and first discussed this back at this 530 up to this 700, the overall appreciation to the sentiment was a lot more severe. Now we've had this lead up to earnings, which seems to be a very steadfast thing. You just have an earnings report coming up, everything's expecting to blow out the numbers, and it just kind of either trades sideways or trades up into that. So that was rather predictable. Again, we did do the $20 profit on the long side, so I guess I did enter SanDisk recently. That wasn't this one. So we did a short fluctuation or a short long position into the fluctuation the day of earnings before the 4 o'clock bell, with the earnings being at right after the bell. And so that part of that, again, documenting this overall momentum move, that seems predictable, right? If we have a strong quarter, other companies in the sector are beating, right? We're not really sure where we're at. Everyone's kind of like, hey, these are huge appreciations. What's going on? We have real business fundamentals. And so without any sort of, again, black swan event or random news headline, which definitely could occur, it's pretty solid to trade into the earnings report long. And then for this trade, what we have is we report the earnings, we have the blowout numbers, we have after this big appreciation, to me that is the most stock-specific stimulus that could exist in the current market environments. And it just traded pretty standard towards market dynamics, trading dynamics on something you would see trading that hasn't just appreciated 3,000%. And so to me, that gives me reassurance, or not reassurance, but just data, information. Hey, this trading overall seems healthy. At least for now. Again, you get one headline, something breaks down. These things do tend to give up their gains extremely quickly. But then again, talking about the overall market capitalization, sure, we've gone from $30 a share to $200 to $700 to $1,400 up to $1,500, which we'll get to. Like, that's kind of the whole number and the trading dynamics. But for now, these huge appreciations, the overall market capitalizations is still only, like, I think right now today at this 1350 is right around 210 billion. We can just look, Brad. Or 200 billion. So I mean, it's like, again, why is one thing at 5 trillion? Why is Google and Nvidia and AMD, or I don't know what AMD is at, but 4 to 5 trillion versus 200 billion? Why not 400 billion? Why not 800 billion? Not what 1.2 trillion? And then even like the host Mike Santoli or David Favor is on there recently. Again, I turn off the CNBC right before I start talking, saying stuff like, $1 trillion, like it's a lot. And it's like, the appeal is just, hey, this is a big number, but like something's worth whatever it's worth, whatever value it creates. And so seeing these overall market capitalizations of 200 billion versus a trillion versus 5 trillion, and admittedly, I don't know the intimate details of the business operation, construction, like why, as a stock trader, hey, Johnny can go bid this up to $400 billion and I wouldn't blink. Like, it would make no difference. My analysis would still be the same. We're right back into this environment of what is PDE, what should it be? And then a company beats earnings, right? Typically, or at least from my perspective, what I've always articulated, the price to earnings consideration is the stock price appreciating and then not real consideration to the earnings. And so we have these companies coming out with huge earnings numbers, and it brings those PEs down. And so these dynamics of, you have these huge appreciations in market capitalization, but the earnings number beats. That's our denominator, folks. And now it's like, it goes from like 25 to like 7 or 10. And it's like, what do we do with that? And so that's that. Like, I really have like no conviction in that environment at all. We're in these things where it's like, okay, forward-looking environments, definitely. So I'm assuming we're going to overshoot things more often than not. Again, that's why we try to fade momentum. All momentum typically trades the same to me. I mean, you always have your sector-specific news headlines, stock-specific news headlines, ideal or quintessentially forefront the earnings reports. But it's just like, where 10 price to earnings, 20 price to earnings, 100. I mean, it's just, there's no conviction for me as a trader. Hey, I think this is going to go up or down for this reason. Nothing. And so that's kind of the environment you get into. But from the overall trading, this seems healthy, right? I don't expect a huge retracement. This appreciation from 200 to 700, waking up and seeing a $200 down day wouldn't have surprised me. We did have $200 trading range, but no real like volatile movements. And then same pretty much all of the way up that we have been following this. And so I don't have this the price action to sentiment disparity has seemed to tighten for me. And again, could wake up at like even 1,000 though. Right? That you'd be getting $400 to $500, which would be extremely reasonable from like a trading perspective. And it's the same $400 a share that you would have gotten, from the $700 to $300, should that have gone in that way. And so it's just like, you're looking for things that you have overall conviction on. Well, sticking to the specifics of managing the memory trade. And so regardless, it breaks out above our range. We stop out around $900. Again, a share and total loss. But then we trade back up. We have our earnings report, our price to earnings. I'm not even sure what again, Brad, we can just pop right back on over. So 23. So 23.6. Again, it's this, like, to me, the disparity comes from how fast it goes, and that just comes from like watching and experiencing the market. But regardless, for the overall management, I don't have some big, I think it's kind of a huge retracement, and so, which was different from the $700 and $500 range, which I thought we could have had a big, multi-$100 a share retracement pretty quickly. But we've had good trading, and then we have, again, forward-looking, these contracts of buying pressure going in certainly into 2027. And And then so it's just like, again, how many trading sessions do we have between here and the next news cycle? And so now we report earnings, and it's like we're at huge appreciations. What's the next stimulus? We have news cycles every day, headlines every single day. And so the re-entry this morning was, again, back to more of what I would say like expected dynamic, or just like when we're talking about 3 days of movement and then some sort of relief. That was the motivation for this. Not expecting some sort of big retracement. We have this breakout earnings report, bam, and then we trade down after earnings is reported 4:30 or 4 o'clock after the bell. Next morning opens up, trades down, then finishes way stronger higher, and then we have 2 more days of upward movement. So that's our 3-day kind of time frame with our blowout or extension. This is not a blowout, though. I want to be very clear. This is not, and there's no sort of blowout has occurred here. And so this is a short position. Before we were shorting it explicitly for a huge retracement because that seemed like the environment that could happen. But this trade was, again, just this 3-day extension, $1,500 whole psychological number. And then this, right, we kind of close up and then we fade up. And then this, I entered pre-market at 7 o'clock this morning, just 1 share. With the explicit trade prospectus, hey, we're going to get volume once the market opens and close into the open. And so our standard time frames apply. The Gucci main hour, meaning whatever move a stock does, it typically articulates that from 9:30 to 10:17. And so I'm actually not being goofy about that number. It does seem to be right around there. And so, or like specifically to that number. And it's never specific all of the time. None of these like trends are. But regardless, and so we did get that, from 7. I had a bid at like 5 in the morning, like 15:03 that did not fill, but woke up around 7, got kind of lucky on the timing, really wasn't like, I'm not full-time trading. And if I was full-time trading, again, you don't pick the market dynamic, you make your trades work around what's happening. And so regardless, I was able to short 1 share at like $14.95, closed it pretty quick. And so that was the dynamic I wanted to get to. So I short this share at 7 in the morning, right as we're getting to the open, right? Once I know the open, even within like the first 5 minutes before the open, you start to see, like, you notice the volume coming in. And so regardless, the open's going to happen. It's going to be volatile. And so that's going to happen. For the management, 2 discrete sections to me is, do I want to close exactly at the open, like the first opening candle, or do I want to close again from that around that 10:17 after the morning trade has articulated, kind of played out? And so the risk reward is, the closer it is to the open, the more volatile. And so I closed it. It was 14:30, so it would have been this within 6 minutes of the open. And so ideally, if this would have went perfect, again, the short 14.96, and then again, I was up $50, but because it's the open, within that you could have a snap up as easily as you can have a snap down, and we are in a stock that's with extreme momentum and trading in a healthy manner. And so this is, again, a short-term relief, not an overall trend change trade. And so I closed it pretty quick within the first 6 minutes. It was definitely into this candle at some point. We've clearly continued down a little bit, not a lot. I definitely would have closed. It is 10:37 right now. Certainly would have closed at 10:17 or before. And so good little $60 a share realized. And because we're not trading any sort of real, like, substantial positions, the overall dollars a share, $60 a share, in an open is pretty good. So I was decently happy with this. Getting a little bounce here from here. Again, still expected to. Again, we're in this price discovery range where we could go to 1,600, would make no difference to me. We could go to 2,000, make no difference to me. We could retrace back to 1,000, make no difference. Retrace back to, I would say, a break below 900 would be like a huge, like something else is going on. And so didn't want to hold the position short any longer, but we're able to get about $60, $62 a share profit realized. So that was a good little relief trade. Overall, for the memory chip, seems extremely strong. I think I've covered my prospectus of what I think about it at current time. And so that is that for the memory trade, because I do have some recollection of about noontime yesterday. That was the conversation, wanting to respond to something, but I didn't have anything written down. So we pop on over here to CF. I was short this yesterday. Again, we had another bombing. The Iran, some of their fast boats hit some carrier. And so there was a news headline about bombing. And so real whipsaw over here in terms of reacting to news sentiment. There's no real trading volume. It just kind of bombing happens, go up, any sort of movement towards resolution go down, but there was earnings coming up. And so I was short this yesterday, this 127.30, and we goes tiptoeing around, should I hold this, because we do have, it did report earnings yesterday. So that's what did it? I thought it was after today. And so, yeah, it says, so that's just the candles up there for today. Yeah, so this reports earnings after the bell today. That's what I expected, and I just saw that symbol, so I was like, did it actually report? But no, that's just the indication that it's up tonight. And so, right, this is a company operating. We have some short-term stimulus around the war. I have no real sector fertilizer insight. Again, not that I think that's, when you're in a highly liquid environment and things are trading, they all kind of trade the same. So I don't think you have to have some sort of deep insight ever. But if you have a trade or want to be convicted on a trade, you want to know everything that you could know. Not to say that's going to give you some deep insight, but hey, you just know, you're consenting, you know exactly what you're getting into. And so closed this yesterday at minus $5. And I do the mental accounting. I wanted to explicitly say, again, if you're new to trading or whatever, all of the small losses definitely count, and all of the small wins definitely don't. I make $5 to $10, it doesn't matter. I lose 1 penny, that counts. And it's just, kind of a mindset, because typically I've seen new people do the opposite, where it's like, oh, I made $5, that's a great trade. Oh, I just lost 15. It's like, no. And so, in reality, every penny is every penny, win or lose. But all of the small losses definitely count. All of the small wins definitely don't. And so CF, they had earnings coming up. I was more weary or leery around the earnings. I just have no idea. It's unknown stimulus to me. So I closed that at a very small loss. And then, we opened up, or again, pre-market when I'm looking at this stuff, we did have a bid and ask, or an ask. Because if you're looking to cover, you're going to have to, your guaranteed price is the ask. And so we certainly had that into the 118, 119. So that kind of stinks. And again, anytime you take a position, it's always worthwhile to acknowledge, hey, you're going to have some, this went in my favor, I feel silly. I lost more money, I feel silly. You just kind of acknowledge the sentiment. It's human nature. And then you just kind of move on. And so those are our two focus trades, portfolio reconstruction, management considerations. On to a couple talking points, nothing crazy. But again, we had the Lisa Su on their interview. Again, just her overall presentation, I wanted to just point out. Again, as CEO, massive company. And the exact quote, I didn't have it written down, but she just says agentic 14 million times. It's just say the buzzword. And then her public speaking presentation just struck me as all right, this is the leader of this big company, AMD. And it's just you can almost hear them they've rehearsed this. I'm going to have an interview on CNBC. I'm going to talk this over with my PR team and make sure you hammer home these points. And as a viewer, business operator, educated financial trader, it's just I don't know what's a good comparison, but you hear a little kid go up to play little league baseball, and they're like, I'm going to hit a home run because I'm going to do great, and they're kind of talking themselves up, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, you do that, little Johnny or Lisa Su, but it's just again striking to me. Overall demeanor and presentation seems jittery, excitement. And again, I don't think there's any point in time when, every time I sit down to do a video, there's just you're getting going talking. It's still a thought. And so I don't think that type of anxiety ever goes away, but it was just standing out Lisa Su's overall demeanor. We talked about the price to earnings lowering as a result of earnings increasing, not price increasing. Covered that as much as I wanted to. I have the ServiceNow CEO, Bill McDermott, looks like a Hunger Games villain. He was on there yesterday, I want to say with Jensen Huang, And it's just like the dude just dresses up and it looks like a Hunger Games villain. Can't put it any other way. And so and to the same type of thing, I think it was Stephanie Link, I want to say. She said something, and industrials. A bunch of people were up there talking about the memory chip trade, I think, or overall technology in general. And she's like, and look at industrials. Again, as if like the people on the trading desk at CNBC haven't realized that all momentum in a liquid environment trades exactly the same. Because it's the same thing. Whatever the stimulus is causing something to move doesn't really matter, right? You're sitting there on your computer saying, hey, I want to make money. What on earth do I click? Oh, is this buy some, 4-man company in Zimbabwe? I don't care. Am I going to make money? Sweet. Let's buy that thing. And so once you have liquidity, an overall volume environment where it's like sufficient, you're not trading with 4 people, and then you have momentum, all trades the same. And so, I'd say like exchanges also plays a role. But that type of accessibility is only going to increase. Or we're going to get more agentic. I could be Lisa Sue, agentic. The agentic agency of agencies, agenticus. I'm agenticus. That's me. That's my Roman name. But regardless, Bill McDermott is a supervillain. And Stephanie Link says, and industrials. Like, again, momentum in a liquid environment doesn't trade the same. And then finally, the last talking point for right now, well, I think, but maybe one more. Yesterday there was in the morning, David Faber has an interview with the FDA commissioner, which again, at this point, I articulate Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8 of the United States Constitution is violated. On top of that, the Fifth Amendment is violated. But I want to focus on the Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8 part, not my compensation part. You guys have been lying about science to the point where people who say they're physicists, Sean Carroll, May 16th-ish, 17th-ish, 2017, be patient with new ideas. I emailed somebody who's widely known in public at R1 Research Institution's analysis, and he didn't know what it was. The ball is in your court on demonstrating your competence of scientific understanding. Science is sentience, sentience is sentence. And sentences are scientific to the point where it's, again, the shapes that you look at to represent your sounds, your letters, are more rigorously described than the area of a circle. Right? Pi r squared? Nope. Pi is, again, the Fibonacci sequence, E, the base of the natural log, and then pi is the R3 element of this phase change, this dynamic limit. And so there's nobody at your research institutions that are functional scientists. That's a proven fact. And so when I'm up there watching the FDA commissioner, and he says all the right things, we're going to make, drugs more accessible, right? Because the context is like, there was a cancer drug that got denied or got, I have it, Replimune. Replimune got rejected. It's a specific cancer. David Faber's articulating, he's kind of fired up. Hey, this rejects, some sort of either palliative care or, again, stabilizing care for people with cancer or rare cancer. It's not forefront. Why aren't we helping people? David Faber is a liar and a criminal every single day. The FDA is a liar and a criminal every single day, focusing more on the FDA. Because if you want to be a scientist, all of those guys went to Harvard, or not even Wharton. They went to, what's another big medical school? Hopkins. Hopkins is up there for sure for medicine. And so, but you guys want to play the ball of science. Again, like more rigorously geometrically proven letters are than the area of a circle, which I also derive that as well in hilariously stupid fashion. And so you have the FDA commissioner up there saying, we listen to science, we listen to science, we listen to science. I'm at the point where I'm the adult in the room. You guys are demonstrably not scientists. Here is the law, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8, to progress science. To progress science. Writings and discoveries, mathematical proof you've never seen before, analysis, true analysis, completed. And so the level of crime and death and destruction and overall suffering caused by that is, again, just, we are at the point, no need to raise our voice. You've violated the law, make the law make sense, and then we'll go from there. But to see David Favors, again, agitation, dude. Hey, FDA commissioner, what was his name? I think I have his name written down. Dr. Marley McCary, or my handwriting's so shit I can't read it. Makary, the FDA commissioner, head guy, chief. He wanted to have a big career. He went to medical school. He had all of the big accolades on his resume. Dr. Makary, me and you we'll talk about medicine. We'll talk about medicine. We will talk about biology. We'll talk about pathology, anesthesiology, any of the ologies, because all of the things are charged and it's stabilized into mass, and it's all regulated by shape, by chirality. I'm ready to go. I just did my homework and just refreshed. And so, but again, I'm not joking. This causes so much death and suffering globally. And then you have David Favor, liar and criminal, talking to Dr. Makary, liar and criminal. Here is the law, enforce it. There is no point to try to appeal to your morals. You have none. There's no sense to try to appeal to your scientific capacity. You have none. Provably, throughout the whole society. Right? If you're saying it's turtles all the way down in mathematics, and it literally says thematics across every building on this planet, you'll lose. And you'll lose the game of reputation, and you lose the game of authority. You're provably incompetent. And again, culture bounds behavior. People have interacted with me. I'm a normal social person, and the amount of scientific denial that I've seen up close and personal from people that are now doctors, Tim Doon, Ross Warner, and I'm just over here like, what in the fuck? How? But again, we are in the professional business world. There is no room for that level of incompetence and arrogance in the medical world. It's very literally life or death every time. And so I continue to emphasize of how poignantly the law is violated and how much death and suffering is directly caused by that. And again, my credentials, all of my validation is sitting right there on the internet, and you guys have people at R1 institutions, first of all, not competent enough to make their own money. Oh, give me a research grant. Give me a research grant. Oh, I can't think for myself. Wah. And then what kind of science? Is that going to have any bias on their science? Oh, Dr. Susan, you can't get a new grant to do your research. I hope you get good results. Is that an environment where we would create any bias, guys? It's like you go to freaking high school and grade school and learn about, propaganda. Just the whole concept of like misinformation and people not learning shit. And then you go like, this is what it is. I went to Ohio State University and said, hey guys, we have a lot to work on in physics directly to the point where you can viscerally perceive Eric Broughton like, oh yeah, shit, dude. But then just being like, nope, I'm a part of Ohio State. That would mean we'd have to actually do science. And the answer to that is no at the society level. The FDA has no authority. The FDA has no respect for the law. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8, I have the right to progress science with my writings and discovery. That is the step we are at. You guys have no other authority or competence or anything. But to see that conversation is profound. David Favor, liar and criminal. Dr. Makary, liar and criminal. And then to the actual drug, where he's talking about, again, we're making the FDA pathways more accessible to getting drugs approved. Because again, we're in this, the context is China's beating us. Now they're getting more great treatments. Prescribed cannabis oil. Number one global single thing. And again, I don't care to promote, if you guys want to lie, cheat, and steal and cause death and destruction, I've done everything I could. You guys don't fucking listen. And so it's proven. You guys do not know what proof is. And cannabis oil's efficacy and efficiency and just efficacy, that's the complete word, is proven. Its safety, efficacy and safety is proven, completely done. And then what the FDA articulates, they say it needs to be safe and efficacious, and then all of their scientists are just circle jerk career idiots. It's a fact. It's proven. It's scientifically, historically proven to a level where you guys don't even know emotion is logical, because you guys are like 14 and all of your emotions are illogical. But there's the law, enforce it. If not, you guys cause death and destruction, death and suffering to a level that no one seems to care. And I just keep emphasizing that because this is history. It happens every single day, and it's the right answer, and it's proven, and it's done. But some of the great quotes, the FDA commissioner says, if your drugs works, it is going to be approved. I own CBD-enriched alcohol, which absolutely limits the oxidative stress caused by metabolizing alcohol. I also have stage 2 liver fibrosis because I could not get that manufactured or have constitutional rights. Truly. And I have a learning capacity. Once it gets disrupted, it's not emotional. It's a mechanical process of I lose my ability to eat food literally. I don't see beer or bread or meat. I see calories. And when you cannot eat food, calorie is calorie. But That's the environment that I come in. I literally own a product that I can't manufacture, and at the same time, my rights are deprived to a point of grave bodily harm and direct violation of the law, and still no one cares. Wow, what a great country. Holy shit. And again, I say that in kind of a lighthearted tone because I just can't emphasize how profound of a crime that is. But David Faber, he's going to stick it to Dr. Makari for restricting our cancer patients from getting the drugs and treatments they need, which I agree with that sentiment. It's just the overall scientific validation and competence is zero. Zero. And so Dr. Makari also says, I trust the process. I trust the science. That's the scientific process. I am the only person that has demonstrated the scientific process. Now, forget me. I've been running around saying rhythm is real, and everyone blurts it out. Vibration is the inverse of rhythm. You take a bunch of things that are trying to move, and they're going to vibrate. You turn on your phone, and it's got vibration right there on the settings. So it's consistency at a level that is immediately appreciated. Actual mathematical proofing, your millennium problems and so forth, immediately solved. And now what we're doing is the complete reduction of analysis, which you have never seen in history, step one of that process. And so, but you're going to get on TV and say, we trust the scientific process as a demonstrable fact of history. Every single person I have interacted with who, again, watches me wake up every day, watches my discipline level, watches me cook meals, go to school, do my homework, at age-appropriate times. And so it's like, again, if you're in a group of 20 people and somebody says, hey, I'm going to be there at 9 a.m., and everyone's there at 9 a.m. and one guy's not, you can see people's discipline and maturity level just by going through about their day-to-day life. And so even with people seeing me do that to above and below past them, and the only kind of reaction you get is jealousy, doubt, and then resentment after a while, and pure incompetence from them. And it's just and you're just holy fuck, how do I get away from this? But again, now these are doctors. How? No. And so seeing the FDA commissioner say, we trust the scientific process might as well saying Santa Claus is real. I trust Santa Claus. I write a note on Christmas Eve and say, Santa, I want a beanbag, a chair, and then Santa shows up and gives me my beanbag chair. It couldn't be any other explanation. A big fat guy came down the chimney. And so that was another quote that I wanted to point out explicitly. Dr. Makari says, independent teams came to the same conclusion. False, wrong, zero. Independent teams validated the frontal lobotomy. That's a great historical reference for the FDA. Look at that. They even won the Nobel frickin' Prize. Yeah, just cut off half people's brains out and be like, yeah, dude, no emotions left in that guy. Wonder why. I think we cured him. Sick stuff. And so, but again, truly, scientifically, culture bounds expectation, right? All of these references, we used the Ricky Bobby yesterday. But everything you learn is like a cultural reference. And so, even again, work, power, velocity, all of these fundamental words, they're fundamental just because they're used the most. They have the highest frequency of use, right? The most used verbs are irregular, right? That reflects this chirality of conjugation. But point being is when you say you have independent scientific teams, nothing is touching, but everything is connected. Culture connects everything. So they're not independent in the sense that they're having some breakthrough analytical process when provably the only body that can conduct analysis is me. You go into math class and they say we don't know what it is. We go into physics class and they're talking about black holes and dark energy. Again, black holes is a naming error. Dark energy is just fundamentally wrong. Again, the unification of physics is done. The engineering applications are classified to the point where it's an open secret. And even the people that know that still don't know the crux of shit what's going on. But regardless, again, Article 1, Clause 8, Section 8, to everybody in this universe that wants to listen, I am provably the highest rank that could exist. That's a fact. That is a demonstrable fact. You are causing death and destruction. The progress of a species, of a locality, is not dependent on one person. It's dependent. We're all in this together. And clearly, whoever is out there does not know how to behave. Why is that surprising? Oh, it's not. It just isn't. And so your independent teams, Dr. Makari, they didn't come to independent conclusions. They're all bounded by the same nothingness that you guys call the scientific method. And I ask you, what is science? You're like, I don't know. I don't know. And so again, all of the right words, all of the wrong actions. David Favors. Oh my gosh, why can't you? Why, David, tell the truth, brother. Look yourself in the faux size, right in the mirror, and say, "I'm David. I sit on public TV every day. I could tell the truth," and I don't. But I'm gonna go look at Dr. McCarr and be like, "What are you doing, bro?" And that behavior, that hypocrisy, hypocrisizing on hypocrites, other hypocrites, and everyone's just pointing fingers. Do your job. You're literally a newscaster. Report on the news. Unification of fundamental science. Newsline, bam, hits the news headlines. But again, no, everyone's a bunch of cowards. Everyone's a bunch of criminals, and no one cares. And so those were my talking points for today. Overall portfolio construction, the last thing I did want to say was, did miss out on a good chunk of of appreciation, the capital appreciation on these income funds. Again, just another sentiment to acknowledge, hey, I had a position, I see it go up more. I'm like, womp, that sucks for me. But again, overall here, what we're doing is, again, kind of just the overall thought is, if on any downdraft, if the capital appreciation can matter more than the income dividend, it just kind of makes sense to trade that. And then if you miss that, you get the dividend for however many months you need or whatever. That's kind of the thought for the management construction of these income funds. And so regardless, our alternative medicine, ATAI, DFTX, has kind of traded away their gains. It's a little bit, pretty much sideways, but no real continuation of the new stimulus after this executive order. And then looks like up across the market elsewhere. So we'll finish up where it's SanDisk. Let's see, did we pop back up? See, now we're back to 1400 here. Again, that was a morning trade for me. I thought I executed it decent. Again, just emphasizing there was do I want to close in like a snap close just right into the open, or close it into the 10-17 time frame? In hindsight, would have made more sense, but overall, $60 a share in a couple hours is pretty freaking good. And so that is what I have for this morning. Again, emphasizing that my rights are violated, and the overall progress of science, it is truly more detrimental just to not send it on out there for everybody. Because again, sentience is a collection of knowledge of everybody. And the more mind you have thinking the right way, because again, thought is not something that just randomly happens. And so people have no reason to think. You get their minds in the right place. People can figure shit out. Life is not complicated. We're all in this together. Let's work hard. But for real, here's the law. You are in violation, and there's no step forward besides that. So that is what I have for right now, and we will check in later. Wednesday, May 6, 2:46 p.m. What's up, everybody? As you can see, we are back on the markets, and we have Joby pulled up. Saw a nice little pop over here. Wanted to give it some shout out, a little commentary. We are up $69 on the day. That is perfect for Joby. We have it sub $8.60. We're at 1043. We get free helicopter rides for life. But definitely a sizable little pop over here. Going to be watching. Probably will put a stop loss on the lower end, but looking like we got a good. Definitely jumped up out of this recent little channel, kind of back into this 9 to 11 channel. We'll see if we continue up, but definitely got a nice little chunk today. And so it looked like earnings report, and we lost less money than we expected, and so we're having a little positive reaction. And we did have recently a completed flight from New York to somewhere else here in the United States, and they do have operations in the Middle East. And so we talked about that relation with the Iran war. Thought I would see more kind of reaction in here, but good little positive appreciation today. And so also in Gemmy, we are about at our entry price. Again, Bitcoin at like 82,000. I think we'll get a pop here. I really do. Both positions really small. Joby even smaller than this one. Again, it's just, I know we said it this morning. I say it a bunch, the price to earnings. Could this go to $2 a share or 50 cents a share? Absolutely. Could it go to $10 a share? Absolutely. What's the price to earnings? Don't really know. I don't have a motivation to think it should be at something as opposed to something else. It's just gauging on, what are the stimulus earnings reports, news, patents, sector, overall policy, all of those things, and when does the sentiment and price action show the greatest discrepancy, and then we try to take a position to capitalize on that discrepancy, returning to whatever normal is, just whatever seems to be disjointed or out of whack. And so I do think there's enough. This has, again, 8 months after an IPO, beaten down. We have continued stimulus, in my opinion, in both crypto as well as prediction markets, and then alleviation from this IPO atrocity. And if not, I'm sure Mark Zuckerberg will come in and scoop up the company because the Winklevoss owns it. And so that's our little check-in on Gemmy and Joby. Again, both really small positions. Probably won't have a stop loss here. On Joby, probably will put one up tomorrow. Again, we're up like $150 on all things Joby with just extremely small positions, getting knocked out once we get into about $5 to $10 of profit, and just, kind of having fun with it. But that's kind of my thought for, again, these more long-term, long positions. You see these, we've been focusing on SanDisk with huge appreciation, but even things that don't hit the news cycle whatsoever are appreciating 100, 200% on just the smaller cap, emerging markets, the Russell whatevers, just smaller companies. And so it's there's enough liquidity, enough opportunity where you can see huge appreciations. You don't have to focus too much on one thing. You are going to, again, acknowledge any sentiment if you have a position. For example, if we pop on over to the QQQI, we left on the table just at current prices between the QQQI and the SPYI, probably about probably $700 of appreciation just in the past couple days. And again, these aren't positions where I was I need to get out of here, I'm trying to liquidate these or anything. It was just, hey, good amount of capital appreciation, had just gotten the dividend, sitting right around here, this 53 to 54. I am still personally, that was my first kind of talking point for the afternoon, is I'm kind of late year bearish. I just think war, believe it or not, is net detrimental to all things supply chain, all things business, and I don't think that has been reflected whatsoever. I think we have this period of heightened activity where it's just oh yeah, we had this depreciation, now we're snapped back, and now there was some fat white dude on here in the afternoon, Pulte, again, just a brain-dead Republican talking point guy. But again, just echoing it literally says the American dream, back on track. And it's just general appreciation in the stock market when at the same time you can 100% have things that are not appreciating. The major indices are 70% technology, 5 companies. And so we're in this period of overall momentum. We have this heightened activity in general from the war. I don't think it's really acknowledged or kind of priced in, so to speak. I don't even like the term baked in, because that's more of the same. The market is irrational. Oh, I think that's baked in or priced in the same sentence. It's just not consistent at all. But I thought there would be a more immediate retracement or just stalling to the appreciation or slight retracement, as we articulated and said, looking for a better entry price, but just overall, quote-unquote, swing trading these income funds seems like a pretty good approach. And so feeling a little salty, again, acknowledging the appreciation, but that's just my thoughts there. And so back to the late end of the year, again, kind of bearish. Again, we're still at 3 years, 9 months of appreciation. There's no hard set timelines, but again, the 3 years seems to be kind of a thing. Again, it's not a high conviction whatsoever, but just this overall war activity to me is just I don't think this is good, and I see the current price levels as, again, just heightened activity in general. Then once things calm down, the news cycle calms down. Again, and if it doesn't, then the war, if the war stops today, Hormuz Strait opens up, we're singing Kumbaya, and nobody's going to. I still think, overall, 2 months, right, 1/6 of the year of active war, definitely, again, of major supply chain area. That's got to be a net bad thing. I just throwing it out there. I think that's got to be kind of a net bad thing. And then I think the recent appreciation is kind of this snapback, American dream, brother, bald eagle screeching, and it's just I think we'll have less activity. And if we don't, that means the war's still going on. All things net detrimental for total productivity, total earnings later in the year. But we shall see. That is not a hard conviction in any way, because I'm just not that informed on the supply chain. And then when I watch time and guess again, neither are they. It's like, I don't even know if anybody really knows anything in this shit. So we're doing our best over here. Again, 95% allocated, or probably right around there to our treasury bonds, with no chance of changing. And again, we do not have constitutional rights, and the likelihood of getting extorted completely illegally, not exaggerating, is high. And there's just nothing we can do because there's no laws in this country, there's no morals in this country, and no one gives a fuck about anything. And we emphasize that in every video. But that is what I think on the overall market conditions, with super light conviction. Late year bearish. Definitely don't think any of these interest rates are going to happen, or interest rate cuts. There has been some verbiage of, again, maybe a raise. Again, I've given you my opinion on that multiple times, and the conversation around it is poor. Bad financial education. And so I didn't have a bunch of talking points. I did have Brian Sullivan said something, again, in reference to this overall tech appreciation. Our major indices are composed mostly of this tech companies. Who's left to buy? And I don't have much insight, but just to that kind of statement, overall, I think you can articulate some sort of dynamic between population and like maximums, right? Because very good point of if something's going to go up, you can have just an extremely lower amount of volume. Like, just let's say 1,000 people are trading something, it goes up to a certain price, and then everyone just stops. It would just be at that price, right? And then let's say you have something that a lot of trading volume, and then it just tapers off 10-1. You have 1,000 people trading it, now you have 100, or maybe you have 1,000 people, now you have 10. And so you can have these like weird kind of appreciations in terms of like blow off tops, I guess. I'm not even talking like real life market dynamics, but there's just some sort of generalizable total population buying maximum dynamic. Again, like I said, nothing rigorously articulated, but who's left to buy, like, again, a maximum, because somebody has to buy something, right? A transaction has to have a buyer and seller. In rigorous economics, not so much a trading idea, but just you go into Harvard, Wharton Business School, it's like, what's like the maximum dynamic for trading or something? I don't know. But the way the question was posed gave me some idea, some intuition. And so again, just even more generally, the population limitation, I expect and forecast we will all be for several lifetimes into the future, and this overall population increase, and then overall markets appreciating both from the population and then decreased inefficiency throughout the entire supply chain, throughout the entire labor market, so on and so forth. Again, the money problem is a solvable problem for the whole entire globe. And so I just think there's more theoretical articulation of the actual trading dynamics of volume and then price appreciation and limitations. But to that, just like the investing motivation, back to, again, we say this investor motivation is extremely low, and both in just like all of the people that talk finance all day, that run businesses, you pull them up higher on CNBC, and I'm over here watching them like, really? That's Lisa Sue over there just like blurting out agentic that she had from her PR team. And all of you guys have like huge teams. Even CNBC, again, you have a huge news desk. It's just like, does anybody like do the whole thought process themselves, or is it just diffusion of responsibility everywhere? But regardless, is this like, who has the motivation to invest? We talk about, because you're in a liquid environment, you have a bank account, you're already exposed, you're holding a financial product, you're definitely making a financial decision, but you're holding cash is 100%, again. They talk about that on CNBC all of the time. Your average Joe with a job that just deposits their money into a bank account, they're in the same environment. They've maybe never once thought about the word investing, stocks, bonds, trading, anything's earnings, nothing. But they're still, their economic environment, their personal finance is a direct response or a direct participant in this environment. And so the overall, again, people that are clicking buttons to make investing that are not, again, the bulk of the population, I would say, is just they might have index funds, but they're not, like, again, actively trading even. And so the who's left to buy is all of the people like me and you, meaning the finance people, like, is this going up and down for like 5 seconds? Buy, sell, right? And so that's why we have this, again, extremely aggressive, forward-looking environment where, right, there's, I would say it's overwhelmingly apparent the market is irrational, but there's no, like, secret either, right? You can definitely make money. You can definitely have good trades. Good trades to me are all over the place, whether it's a fundamental assessment, which to me that gives you, like, the moral pat on the back. It's like, yeah, I'm supporting the American dream. And I'm over here like, you guys are effing idiots. Like, the market's going to have some sort of dynamic, try to monetize that. And so, but everyone, again, actively trading or actively investing is like the of that 6% of overall species maturity, it's like 0.0001% of people that, like, attempt to manage money actively, right? It's a profoundly small number. And then you're limited by data. And it's just like, there's only so much you can do. And so who's left to buy is like an extremely small subset of an extremely small subset that is extremely limited by data that is not that consequential. So it's a really fun, predictable environment, as we all can tell, but that's why we get on every day and say, oh, I don't really know, but I'm going to try this. And so the people that need to invest versus the people that want to invest, again, just a personal psychology of balance. Like, people see the different appreciations of the stock market. That's typically tied to huge appreciations. SanDisk is up 3,000%. Well, then if you don't have a lot of capital to start with, go over to options. You can see 1,000% appreciations day in and day out. And so it's like, right, those are the people that are left to buy, is all of those crackheads. But it's just kind of like true. That's your average retail investor, and then the small few of those that at least have some sort of discipline and strategy, they become your hedge fund managers. And so, excuse me, the want and need, the psychology is just a balance, again, of what people in this extremely immature investor, and like, it's just people, it's gluttony to an extent. It's like people just like want, and they don't even know what they want, right? I use the example, we lost some money on SanDisk. It was a well-managed trade. It just went against us. Our prospectus was exactly wrong. And so we managed it the best we could. We were at the top of our range. It broke out of that. And then I was sad that I didn't get to buy the electric bike that I never had thought about. And it's just like, like, what is the motivation to trade? It's always to make money. Or to invest. Those were investing, gambling, prospecting even. Like, you're trying to have an appreciation and a return. And so that's who's left to buy anything in terms of the financial products. But the balance of want versus need is it's extremely skewed to want. Because to me, how many people could just take huge chunks, again, if you have a big appreciation, and then immediately go to fixed income, to me, it's like, that's a no-brainer. That's what you do. But people, sure enough, you see it on Wall Street Bets. Who knows? I mean, how prolific it is. I don't, again, from public or private firms, but just, it's like people make enough money, and it's just like they don't even know what they want, and it's just like the love of the game, so to speak. But in reality, it's just like gluttony. It's just gluttonous. And so, who's left to buy? It's all of the people that's sitting on the computers like me. It's like, oh, can we go up to the moon? Moon yet? When's the moon? But I just thought it was a talking point to discuss. And so we were at 3:02 p.m. I did not trade anything further. Again, we made the $60 a share this morning on SanDisk. Feeling a little bummed on the income funds. Closed those a little too soon. But that's our overall prospectus for our construction, our management. Netflix did look interesting again, but just not a price level that is advantageous or that I would trade to try to make money. And then overall, looking for extremely high conviction things, and then our position sizes are extremely small. And so just churning, responding to things on the more of the economic points, and then the trading when they come up. And so that is what I have it for today, Wednesday, May 6th, 3:02 p.m., and we will see you on the next one.